They say Bramblewick station shut down 10 years ago. No trains, no staff, just rumors whispered in the dark corners of town. But at midnight, something impossible happens. A train arrives, and Elena Hart was brave, or maybe foolish enough, to board it. Elena stepped onto the abandoned platform, her small torch barely cutting through the thick, clinging fog. The air was heavy with the smell of damp metal and forgotten time. She was there because of the letters, anonymous, unsettling letters, each one arriving on a plain, white envelope with no sender, no address. Each one carried the same stark warning: do not board the last train. But the mystery had gnawed at her for weeks, and tonight, she wasn't running from the whispers. She wanted answers. Suddenly, a sound, or rather, the lack of it, caught her attention. A train, ancient and covered in a layer of dust that seemed to swallow the light, slid into the station with an unnerving, ghostly silence. No screech of brakes, no rumble of an engine. It just appeared. The doors hissed open on their own, revealing an empty, dimly lit carriage. It was an invitation into the unknown. Inside, the air was still and cold. A faint hum vibrated through the floorboards, and old lights flickered erratically overhead. In the entire carriage, only one man sat alone. He wore a heavy gray coat, despite the mild night, and held a newspaper dated 15 years ago. He didn't seem surprised to see her. As she hesitated at the doorway, he slowly looked up, his eyes seeming to know her very soul. "You're Elena," he said, his voice calm, almost gentle. "Come in!" Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to run and never look behind her. But his voice held a strange, compelling quality. She took a single, fateful step forward, and with a sharp, final click, the doors locked shut behind her. The man's gaze never wavered. "You've been expected," he said. Before she could ask what he meant, the train began to move, not with a jolt, but with a smooth, silent acceleration, plunging into a darkness so complete it felt like a tunnel with no end in sight. The old man folded his newspaper with slow, deliberate movements. The sound of the rustling paper was loud in the suffocating silence. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Tell me, Elena," he began. "Do you remember your father's accident?" Her heart froze in her chest. Her father, he had been a signalman on this very line. 15 years ago, he had disappeared during his night shift. No trace was ever found, just his torch lying by the tracks. It was a wound that had never healed. The man continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "He boarded this train." Just as he spoke, the lights flickered violently, almost dying completely. In the strobing darkness, figures began to appear in the aisle, dozens of them, transparent and shimmering. They stood silently, their eyes fixed on her, their faces etched with a timeless sorrow. "They are passengers lost in time," the old man explained. "Your father tried to free them from this endless journey. Now, it's your turn." He reached out and placed a cold, heavy brass key in her trembling hand. Elena's mind reeled, but a surge of adrenaline pushed her forward. She pushed through the crowd of ghostly figures, their forms cold and intangible against her skin. Whispers swirled around her, a chorus of spectral voices. Some sounded like warnings, hissing for her to turn back. But among them, she thought she heard another voice, faint and distorted, but achingly familiar. Her father. She finally reached the locked conductor's door at the front of the carriage. The brass key felt like ice in her hand. The moment she slid the key into the lock, the train itself seemed to scream, a high-pitched shriek of tortured metal. The lights shattered, plunging the carriage into absolute blackness. Shadows rushed toward her from all directions, swirling and clawing at the air. And then, a voice echoed through the chaos, clear and strong, cutting through her fear. "Turn, it Elena." It was him. With a shout of her own, she spun the key with all her strength. A massive, blinding burst of light erupted from the door, consuming everything. Elena woke with a gasp on the Bramblewick platform. Morning birds were chirping. A soft, warm wind rustled the overgrown weeds. The sun was rising, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The station was silent. The train was gone. She looked down at her hand, and there, clutched tightly, was her father's old, familiar torch. Her gaze drifted to the old timetable board. As she watched, the dusty, faded letters flickered and rearranged themselves for the first time in a decade. The display now read, "Last train, cancelled. Line closed forever." And just below it, freshly carved into the weathered wood, were 3 small words. "Thank you, Elena." The mystery of Bramblewick Station was over. But for Elena Hart, her story had only just begun.